Doing? You guys doing good? Nobody's gonna fall asleep on me, right? Just ate a whole bunch of food. All right. As Sergeant Lash said, I'm Sergeant Stoner. I'd like to take the Group 56 and say thank you to you guys for inviting me out. Appreciate it. It's a privilege to come out here and talk to you guys today. I've been in the military probably about 12 years now, and it's been a great ride. I enjoy it every day coming to work. I have a positive attitude in light of, different situations that we all get or we all get bombarded with. I've been overseas. Earlier we were talking about overseas, and I was overseas in England for 8 years. Loved it. But the only thing I wanted while I was overseas was to come back to the States. Now that I'm back to the States, coming overseas is pretty good. So I've been here about 3.5 years, down on the 9/11 side. That's the tanker ramp side. So you see those big green, or the big gray 135s flying through the sky. That's us. I'm a jet engine mechanic by trade. Any maintainers out here? I know we've got one. All right. Good. So you guys made it here. I'm here today because I've got an excellent leader/manager, okay? Initially, when the email first came out for this, working at EPR, busy, delete. Didn't think anything of it. I'm like, man, that's cool. I'm glad someone's doing this type of stuff. I'm glad we've got organizations like this. And I deleted the email. And I had my senior come up to me earlier in the day. He's like, hey, Sergeant Stoner, you know what? Did you see that email that came out? In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, the one I just deleted. And he's like, you know what, I think you'd be a good fit for that. I'm like, really? And so I opened it back up after he sent it back to me, and I reviewed it, and I'm looking through it, and I'm like, man, you know what, that's pretty good. Is this the first time we've done one of these? Okay. Let me be the first one to pick a topic that I want to pick, that inspires me, that motivates me. So this is the one I chose, leadership versus management. Most of our NCOs today, we go through our day-to-day routines, and we don't think about leadership and management. We just do our jobs, we do our PT, and we go home, okay? I did a little research on the Google a couple weeks ago, and I put in leadership versus management. 50,500,000 hits in 1.4 seconds. So there's a ton of information out there. But with all that information, where do you guys think I went? Where's the first thing I went to? Wikipedia. Not quite, but good. The PDG, it's the tried and true, the PDG. I cracked that thing open, and lo and behold, there was about 4 pages of leadership versus management. This is testable material, in the PDG. You guys should be reading this stuff, because February, March is coming right around the corner, right? All right, so I went to the PDG with a lot of this stuff, so if you see things or you hear things that sound a little familiar, it's probably because I pulled it right out of there. Okay? And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to go ahead and shout it out. Again, I worked around jet engines, so at times I'm a little deaf. I tell my wife it's selective hearing, but just let me know. We're going to look at the 3 roles of leadership versus management, okay? Those 3 roles are behavior, the behaviors of leaders and managers, the personal characteristics of leaders and managers, and the actual how that affects the organization. What happens when our organizations, we have it's staffed with a whole bunch of leaders and no managers, and how that affects us. I've been a Master Sergeant for probably about 6 months now, and I've noticed that in myself I've had to totally change my behavior of how I acted and how I approached the new strike. And not that I acted in an unprofessional manner, it's just as a Master Sergeant, we are charged with providing highly effective motivation to our subordinates, okay? That is the first sentence in your guys' listed force structure. Okay, 362618, I believe that's the reg. But if you read through it, and I highly encourage you guys to sit down. I'm not saying, you read it every single night before you go to bed, but take a look at it. Find out what your responsibilities are as a staff sergeant, as a tech sergeant, as a senior NCO. Okay? That whole, we're charged with providing highly effective leadership, kind of stuck out with me when I read that. I was in my office the other day, and an email came down, and it tasked me, hey, Sergeant Stoner, we need you to select a staff sergeant or a tech sergeant to run a potluck, okay? I'm looking through, it's the holiday schedule, so we've got tons of people on leave, things are happening, so we've got low manning. And the other NCO, the other senior NCO in my shop, he's like, hey, look, why don't we get so-and-so to do it? I'm like, well, so-and-so, are you sure? You think he's gonna do that? He's one of the NCOs that we talked about earlier that just day-to-day, okay? But he came into the office, and I spelled it out for him. I kind of hopefully motivated him, inspired him a little bit, and he was like, you know what, no problem, I'll do that, I'll run with that. And I looked at my other senior NCO, I'm like, man, did you see that? Brought a tear to my eye, you know? So these are the type of behaviors that we have to instill in our young folks, our airmen, our senior NCOs, our junior NCOs. Okay? They say management is of the mind. Okay, what do you guys think that means? Why is management of the mind? Well, when I say Sergeant Garrett, I need you to get an EPR done to me by 1600 today. That's a management tool, right? I administered, I controlled it. Okay? That's pushing people in the right direction that need to go. And we need management. Okay? We can't have solely leadership, we can't have solely management. We need to have them both. Okay? Managers can control people by pushing them in the right direction. Okay? Give the example of the EPRs due by 1600. That's a management tool. You know, if you set up a spreadsheet or you set up a times table, that's a way we can help manage that. Now, leadership is a little bit different in that manner because I can come up to Sergeant Garrett and say, hey, I need that EPR done by 1600 and walk out. Or I can come up and be like, hey, Sergeant Garrett, how you doing? And I can provide like a little human element. Hey, man, how's the wife? How's the kids? You doing all right today? And when you get a chance, I know you're busy already. Can you get me that EPR by 1600? Spend that little bit of extra time and talk to your folks, okay? We said management is of the mind. So if management is of the mind, leadership is of the spirit, okay? It's infused with humanistic needs, wants, you know, how we are as people. Anybody heard of Abraham Maslow? Okay, if you've taken a psychology class, I'm sure you've heard of him. He was pretty big into the whole psychology thing. He came up with a humanistic theory, and that theory basically spells out, so it's the shape of a triangle, certain needs that people need on a day-to-day basis. Okay, one of those needs is physiological needs. We need those sweet potato waffle fries, right? We need food, we need shelter, and so he's come up with a long list of different triangles or different levels of needs and wants. Okay, we need safety. That's one of those needs. We need love, belonging. We need esteem and self-actualization, self-esteem. Okay, we're charged with providing recognition to our peers or subordinates. Okay? We need to build that confidence. We need to build that esteem for our folks. And that's part of the behavior you guys will have to change, or you guys, if you're not already doing it, I'm sure you guys all are, because this is all a right step in the right direction. You guys being here today, charged with that. Anybody heard of Warren Bennis? Warren Bennis, again, right out of PDG. All right, you guys better read that. All right. He's widely regarded as the pioneer of contemporary leadership, okay? In the PDG, when you guys look back through it at some point, the next couple of months, look through there, and there's a section on there that talks about positive, well, it's not positive nor it's negative characteristics of leaders and managers. So let me just read off some of the characteristics of a manager. Managers administer, maintain, and control. Like I said, we gave that example, the EPR. The EPR was to administer, maintain, and control. That's not positive, that's not negative. We need that. Now, some characteristics of a leader. What do you think some characteristics of a leader are? Any one of you guys? Anyone at table 2, how about that?
Selflessness.
Selflessness? Yes, definitely. Good. Okay. Some other ones are folks that motivate people. You guys might have that person in your section that, like that senior NCO that came to my office, well, I didn't really want to do that, but you know what? He motivated me in the right direction. That's a fine leader. Okay. Other characteristics are development and inspiring people. Okay. These are just certain elements. And you guys, in your own lives, you need to work on things that you think that are going to motivate you, or maybe your shortcomings. My shortcoming is PT, okay? Because I love some brownies. I love some ice cream. So you know what? I work on that day in, day out to make sure that that I set the example for my troops below me. Right, again, all those traits they weren't positive or they were not negative. Okay? And over time, you guys will get your personal character built up, and you'll find your niche, you'll find your leadership avenue, where you go with, maybe you give the person a little tease in the right direction because you like that person. Okay? Just different things. Everyone's got their own leadership style. There's books out there, and like I said, there's 50 million different topics on Google about leadership and management. Okay? So find that style. Also, Professor Robert White talked about different things in organizations. He talked about, managers are problem solvers. I'm sure every one of you in your sections has that Excel guy or gal, okay? When he's gone, what happens to the unit? Well, we can't update that calculation, we can't update the formula. This cell's blocked out, this cell's closed, okay? I'm sure we've got folks that are EPR driven, okay? Statistics driven, rather. Okay, folks that solely like, oh man, well, we did this today, so we could turn that into a bullet. Yeah, okay. And you guys, as I'm saying this stuff, think in your own units, and you're going to find that person. Oh yeah, this guy's the Excel guru, or this guy's the stats guy, or gal. You got managers that seek conflict avoidance. Some managers thrive on predictability. Those are the coffee drinkers that you see. That if they haven't had their coffee, don't talk to me. But the main thing that managers do is they ensure that organizational objectives are achieved even if they disagree with them, okay? So as a manager, you might not agree with it, but you still go with it, okay? You still make it happen. All right, leaders. Most leaders analyze purpose and cause. They go to the root of the problem, find out what we can do to fix it. They're the folks that, let me ponder on that, let me think about that, get back to me. Okay, leaders are values driven. Okay, they look at it, is it the right thing to do? Then let's go ahead and knock it out. Leaders accept and invite conflict and ensure their objectives and the organization's objectives are one and the same. Okay, so things you might not like, they make sure that they work on their shortcomings and they make it happen. All right, in the past couple of weeks prior to me coming out here and talking to you guys, I kind of sat folks down and just real casual talk, and I said, hey, you know what? Do you think someone can be an effective manager and not be an effective leader? So, Sergeant Lash, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he's right, because anybody, I don't want to say anybody, but it's easier to be in your little bubble and do your steps that we talked about. Your administer, maintain, and control as a manager. It's easy to do that. And it's harder to motivate people. It's harder to inspire people. It's harder to develop people. Okay, so anybody can be an excellent manager. It's tough to be an excellent leader. But now if we flip that around, if we reverse that, can you be an excellent leader and be a not so good manager? What do you guys think? No, you cannot. Well, you might find situations in your unit where, man, this guy or gal is a great leader, but not so good of a manager. Usually, the best managers become the most effective leaders. Okay, so that's what I want to leave you guys with is that usually when you're an effective when you're an effective leader, you're probably going to be an effective manager as well. Okay. All right, and last but not least, we're going to talk about organizational management. Basically, what happens when our organizations are top-heavy with leadership or management. Okay. In a peacetime environment, we've got abundance of managers and a lack of leadership. We're probably going to survive a little bit. We're going to maintain. We're going to do what we need to do to get the job done. Okay, that's going to work in a peacetime environment. But if you flip the script on that and you look in a wartime environment, this is not going to work at all. Because if you have a whole bunch of managers and maybe a couple leaders, it's not going to work. You need that fine balance. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do when you guys get back to your own units today, look and find out what your organization has. Do they have a fine balance of management and leadership, or is it just all lopsided? Is it all managers and no leaders? Okay, so that's something that I wanted to leave you guys with. Find that balance within your units. Okay, and check that out. We talked about a couple different things. We talked about behavioral traits. We talked about how managers administer, maintain, and control. Leaders motivate, develop, and inspire. We talked about some of the personal characteristics of leaders and managers. We said that they weren't positive, they're nor positive or negative. We talked about how managers are problem solvers, stats driven, the EPR guy or gal, the Excel guy or gal. We talked about leaders, how they analyze purpose and cause. Leaders are values driven. So what I want you guys to get is there's two distinct topics, but without leaders and managers, the unit's going to fail. And that's when we went into the organizational side of things. And how are your guys' own units affected? Is it top heavy with leadership? Is it top heavy with management? All right, so if you look at corporate America or you look at the Air Force, you always have that management base. You always need that, okay? But it's the leaders who actually infuse the management, okay? It's the art of leadership, okay? Leadership's not easy. You guys have to find that own individual balance to get people motivated, developed, and inspired. All right, now I'll leave you with one last final cliche and quote from the author Warren Bennis, right out of the PDG. It says that leaders are the people who do the right thing, and managers are the people who do things right. Okay. So again, thank you guys for having me out. Do you guys have any questions, any comments, concerns? That good stuff. I hope you guys all took something from this. Again, you know, a fine, defined line between managers and leaders, but we can't have one without the other. So thank you guys.